Aji Amisise was there and she reports 4 young mathematicians were discovered to represent the Gambia in the Pan-African Olympiad coming up later this year in Tunisia.
Some naturally gifted in dealing with numbers and figures, others fall on the other side of the tracks, totally choked at the sight of simple arithmetic. This occurrence typifies the psych-challenging nature of math, a prominent subject without which entrance into universities and other high learning institutions is not granted. Various measures to mask the domineering practice of mathematical problems have emerged over the years to reduce the fear of failure groomed into the minds of many. One latest attempt by the Youth Care Foundation is the introduction of the Great Olympiad competition, which saw the participation of 34 schools in a fierce competition of communicating about mathematical concepts, reasoning, and establishing proof amongst others. With a syllabus which is above the usual WIC standard, winners emerged from both junior and senior levels. Aminata Jaju from Deeper Life emerged first in the junior category, followed by Yankuba Jabi from Latrikunda Upper Basic, and Mustafa Sow came out third from St. Teresa's. Solving matrices with Commerce rule captivated one of the examiners, which left Jamima Ifunanye Ibo, a student of Ndaos, in the first place. Abubakar Sisa from the Gambia Methodist Academy followed, and the third place was dominated by a student of Sibek International. 4 students whose performance in the Great Olympiad competition have earned them places in the Pre-Pan-African Olympiad, staged for later this year in Tunisia, were also discovered. These students are to represent the Gambia in the North African country, having to pull it up against students from other parts of Africa. They have proven to be able to calculate answers efficiently outside classroom setting, which is believed to consolidate their previously learned concepts. Practicing math with structured social interactions is believed to have the potential of developing the mind's purely logical faculty.
Games and competition provide opportunities for building self-concept and developing positive attitude towards mathematics through reducing the fear of failure and error. In comparison to more formal activities, greater learning can occur through games due to the increased interaction between children and the accessibility of multiple opportunities to test intuitive ideas and problem-solving strategies. Games and competitions allow students to operate at different levels of thinking and understanding, thus allowing them to learn from each other.
Though the complexity of math is widely agreed on, solving problems in linear forms, some contradict this, saying math is a part of our everyday life.
You see, I always disagree that mathematics is difficult. Whenever I say it, people frown at me. But it's something that I mean. It's not something that is difficult, because it's something that you do every day. Whatever you do mathematics.
The Great Olympiad competition has grown to be an annual event, preparing students' ability for more advanced learning. This is the end of the competition for those who've received the awards, whilst it is a new beginning for the 4 who are gearing up for the Pan-African Olympiad in Tunisia. For GRTS News, I am Ajemi Sise.
70 farmers recently completed a 6-day training in the use and maintenance of milling machines and multi-crop threshers donated to 32 communities in 5 regions across the country by the Gambia Emergency Agricultural Production Project. The gesture is expected to mark the end of the age-old way of milling and threshing cereals in the beneficiary communities. Louis Mendy has more.
These farmers, numbering 70, represent 32 villages in 5 regions from across the country. The peasant recently completed 6 days training on the use and maintenance of 32 milling machines and 5 multi-crop threshers. Complimented for a job well done, the agriculturers will soon be heading back to their respective regions with the machines. This piece of news is expected to bring joy to their communities, for the development is supposed to eventually mark the end of the crude way of milling and threshing cereals, an energy-draining exercise that is not only time-consuming, but results in a significant percentage of post-harvest losses.
5 districts will benefit directly and 32 villages, across the country, because we distribute in 32 milling machines plus 5 multi-crop threshers. But these are machines. If you give a machine to one village, on paper you call it a direct beneficiary, but the indirect beneficiaries, you have surrounding villages that will be coming to those villages.
The Gambia Emergency Agricultural Production Project, since inception some 2 years ago, has intervened in about 600 communities across all regions. Though the project is phasing out and is to be substituted by the West African Agricultural Productivity Program, its impact on the beneficiaries remains unquestionable.
The impact of the JIP, I think these are visible and very measurable. From a monitoring and evaluation point of view, we've given seeds and fertilizer 2010, and in those 600 villages, the average yield has been increased in upland rice from 1 ton per hectare to 2.8 tons. Okay, regarding the 300 power tillers that we gave, it is evident that it has decreased the drudgery involved.
Receiving words of wisdom from their donors and tutors, the beneficiaries were reminded to not only prioritize the maintenance of the machines, but to always use them to the best interest of their respective communities. This new development was preceded by the donation of fertilizer, power tillers, and other farm inputs. With the short-term objective of the project accomplished, officials, though, are looking forward for the sustainable implementation in the long term. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
You can also follow that story and other GRTS programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor GRTS Radio Live. We'll take our first break. Stay tuned.
billahi ma ne dañuy wax 2 weeks bu nekk dina am ñoo xam ne dinañu win bedroom set boo xam ne dafa ànd ak dressing table ba cupboard ba lal bi ak side table ba yëpp wala ñu win la ma ne toogu yoo xam ne toogu yu baax yu óor yu dëgër pour saal bi moom la ñoo win billahi Gamcel defati na ko Gamcel defati na ko Gamcel nee na rëkk billahi Gamcel defati na ko kër la ñuy joxe $100 rek nga poos dugal ci sa biir mobile doo ci ko soxla ba pare win ci kër tey waay Gamcel defati na ko waay Gamcel defati na ko waay ma ne kër la ñuy joxe kër ak ay bedroom set ak ay sofa yoo xam ne yi kenn mënu la ko wax ci taaru ci rafet tey Gamcel.
Welcome back. Human rights defenders in the Ivory Coast are calling on the International Criminal Court to investigate the spate of human rights abuses that occurred in the country during the early 2000s. Ivory Coast was gripped by violence in 2002, which led to the killing of the former Ivorian head of state, General Robert Gay. Meanwhile, top ICC officials are in the country to start investigations into the killings. We have details in this report.
Newspapers in Côte d'Ivoire have announced the arrival of more officials from the International Criminal Court. The ICC has said that it would widen its investigation to include crimes committed in the aftermath of the 2002 coup d'etat against former President Laurent Gbagbo. The ICC is acting on the request of human rights groups in the country. Until now, the investigation of human rights abuses has been limited to the months following the second round of the 2010 presidential election. It's a challenge raised by the ICC. The situation in Côte d'Ivoire is so complex that we have placed our hopes on the fairness of this court. After the insurrection of September 19, 2002, a spate of massacres occurred both in Abidjan and in areas held by the rebels. For the first time, a head of state was executed. Blamed as the author of the attempted coup, General Robert Gay was killed within the first few hours of the uprising. Supporters of Laurent Gbagbo want the ICC to restore the balance. They believe that ICC Chief Prosecutor Luis Moreno Ocampo will find it impossible to ignore the former rebels' responsibility in this conflict. It's a decision that will permit the truth, which this country has